Woke just confused. The Nazis.
The scary ones.
Oh, my sweet summer child, what do you know about fear?
Let's talk about DEI. DEI is the loophole that allowed foreign powers to wreak havoc inside the American society and, to be honest, around the world. So diversity is just a code name, let's say, for critical race theory. And equity is just a code name for communism. And inclusion is just a code name for authoritarianism. And of course, like everything in life, you can look at the same thing and say, okay, that's the bright side and the dark side. So what I just mentioned, those were the dark sides, right? If we think about it like on the bright side, like we believe in their goodness, they just wanted equality, they just wanted people to feel safe, and they just wanted people to feel represented. That's nice, that's good. It's a diversity. In its principle, it's meant so that every aspect of society would have a fair representation. For example, in the academia, 50% needs to be women, 50% needs to be men, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, it's like slipping into like the absurd territory where half of the mothers have to be men. It also takes into account culture, and it thinks that every culture needs to be represented equally.
Multiculturalism is an insistence that the particular cultures found among less fortunate groups are not to be blamed for disparities in income or education or crime rates, but are on net positive.
But the problem is that the culture really affects the merit and the upbringing of a person. Ideally, yeah, you want to have like 50% of the population is black, then 50% should be más o menos the amount of black people that you'd have, whatever. And a lot of it is like in the universities, like a lot of the fighting, for example, in the elite universities is that Jews are very overrepresented and they want to bring down the number or like the percentage of Jews so it would be reflected in society, which ignores the amount of work that Jews put in education since they're like very, very little, and they did it for centuries now. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you want to see an example of a country that functions in that way and is now on the brink of bankruptcy and total collapse, is Lebanon. So yeah, if you're interested in learning some history, I can tell you that this is how Lebanon was created, with a diversity function in mind. Every part of the population has to be presented exactly in the parliament and everything. It's a disaster, okay? Equity. Unless you don't view communism as something dark and you claim that all the communism attempts that happened thus far are not real, well, just think about it. Like in communism, the main principle is to give all the power, all the assets of the state to the state. And the state are just people. So there are people who hold all the power. It's concentrated. By definition, for those who fight power-based societies, communism doesn't make sense at all. Inclusion is having every person feel comfortable in the room, which is another way of saying control your mouth, which is another way of saying no free speech for you. Beautiful. Yeah. Maybe the bright side would be learning empathy. I think that's a skill you need to approach in a completely different way.